Well, Ravish, we have already discussed the part 1. Now we start part 2. So, in part 2, here again the rational man will admit the question in which there is no demonstrably right answer. It is more difficult to deal with the self esteem of a man as a man because we cannot argue out the matter with some non human mind. The only way I know of dealing with this general human conceit is to remind ourselves that man is a brief episode in the life of a small planet in a little corner of the universe, and that for aught we know, other parts of the cosmos may contain beings as superior to ourselves as we are to jellyfish. Other passions besides self esteem are common sources of error. Of these, perhaps the most important is fear. Fear sometimes operates directly by inventing rumors of disaster in wartime or by imagining objects of terror, such as ghosts. Sometimes it operates indirectly by creating belief in something comforting, such as elixir of life. Elixir means a substance believed to cure all the ills, or heaven for ourselves and hell for our enemies. So here again, what we have discussed, like okay, whatsoever the belief that you are believing, it should be true, right? And it should match with the rational thinking. Now, the writer is saying that fear has many forms of death: fear of dark, fear of the unknown, and the vague generalized fear that comes to those who conceal from themselves their more specific terrors until you have admitted your own fears to yourself and have guarded yourself by a difficult effort of will against their myth making power. You cannot hope to think truly about the matters of great importance, especially those with which religious beliefs are concerned. Fear is the main source of superstitions and one of the main sources of cruelty. To conquer fear is the beginning of wisdom. In the pursuit of truth, as in the endeavor after a worthy manner of life, there are two ways of avoiding fear. One is persuading ourselves that we are immune from disaster, and the other is by the practice of sheer courage. So here I have asked two questions also, like what are the main sources of superstitions and what are the two ways of avoiding fear. So please write the answer. Okay, you please write the answer and submit to your teacher. Now see, saying the writer is saying that fear has many forms, like fear of death, fear of dark, fear of unknown, and this only fear could generate no superstitions, and it is the main source of cruelty. So if you want to conquer the fear, how you can conquer? By using your knowledge, wisdom. Now the latter is difficult and to everybody becomes impossible at a certain point. The former has therefore more popular. Primitive magic has the purpose of securing safety either by injuring enemies or by protecting oneself by talismans, spells, or incantations. Without any essential change, belief in such a way of avoiding danger survived throughout many centuries of civilization. Science has now lessened the belief in magic, but many people place more faith in mascots than they are willing to avow. Neither a man nor a crowd nor a nation can be trusted to act humanly or to think sanely under the influence of a great fear. And for this reason, poltrons are more prone to cruelty than brave men and are more prone to superstitions. So what is a talisman? Talisman is a small object used to fetch good luck. So here again I asked one question like which kind of people are more cruel and superstitious, and what is the reason behind. So just try to write. Now, but we have been getting too solemn. Superstitions are not always stark and cruel. Often they add to the gaiety of life. I received once a communication from the god Osiris, giving me his telephone number. He lived at the time in a suburb of Boston. Although I did not enroll myself among his worshippers, his letter gave me pleasure, and I have frequently received letters from men announcing themselves as Messiah and urging, urging me not to omit to mention this important fact in my lectures. I admit, especially in certain prophets who lived beside a lake in northern New York State about the year 1820, right? And prophet announced to her numerous followers that she possessed the power of walking on the water. So, what she was saying that I can walk on the water, and that she proposed to do so at 11 o'clock on a certain morning, and at the started time the faithful assembled in the thousand besides the lake. She spoke to them, said, "Are you all entirely persuaded that I can walk on the water?" With one voice they replied, "Yes, we are." In that case, she announced that there is no need for me to do so. And they all went home much edified. Right? Edified means they learned a lesson. So she was claiming that I can walk on the water, and at one time, like at 11 o'clock, they can come and they can see. But when they gathered there to see that whether the prophet can walk on the water, then she said that, "Are you entirely believing that I can walk?" The crowd replied, "Yes, we have a belief that you can walk on the water." Then she tell that, "Okay, if you believe that I can walk on the water, then why do I, what is the need of walking on the water? Because you already know that I can walk on the water." And that is all much edified. So they learned lessons, and perhaps the world would lose some of its interest and variety if such beliefs were wholly replaced by cold science. A wise man will enjoy the goods of which there is a plentiful of supply, and of intellectual rubbish he will find an abundant diet in our own age as in every other. And that's the end, very beautifully written by Bertrand Russell. Here also I asked one question like, how did the prophets befool her believers? Right? So they have ample reasons by which they can be fooled. They are always fooling the believers. So that's the end of very beautiful story, intellectual rubbish. Thank you so much.